Look, if you want to understand small trucks, if you really want to understand what legacy means, then you need to listen up, because this is a lesson most people completely miss.
See, the Toyota Tacoma, it never once asked for your respect. It didn't wait around for permission. It just took it. This thing operates on a protocol of pure dominance, something that was engineered right into its steel from the very beginning.
You know, this whole story, it really starts with an insult. For decades, Toyota's truck over here in America was just a nameless tool, just a machine carrying the weight for people who couldn't even be bothered to learn its name. Yeah, that was their mistake.
So, check this out. We're talking about 2 decades of just total disrespect. The Hilux shows up in 1970, right? It's this rugged little workhorse. And the American market, they treated it like a complete afterthought. I mean, even after it proved itself, and it did, winning Truck of the Year in '89, it was still just the Toyota pickup. Finally, in 1995, Toyota had enough. They drew a line in the sand and gave the machine a name, Tacoma.
Okay, so the first generation, this was not just some truck with a new badge slapped on it. No, this was a statement of intent. You had the 3.4-liter V6 pushing out 190 horsepower and 220 pound-feet of torque. But honestly, the numbers don't even tell the whole story. The design did. This was no box on wheels. It was an off-road predator. The body looked muscular, alive. The headlights, they looked like they were hunting. This thing looked like it could absolutely bite. And here's a little something that just perfectly separates the amateurs from the operators. You want to know if you're looking at a toy or a serious tool? Don't even bother looking at the paint job. Look at the wheels. Count the lug nuts. You see 5? That's the 4-cylinder. It'll get the job done, sure. But 6? 6 lugs? Now you're talking. That's the big dog, the heavy hauler, the V6, the pre-runner. That's the one built for guys whose ambition is way heavier than their excuses.
All right, so this next phase, this is where Toyota stopped just trying to compete for the hill and decided to own it. This is the moment the dominance protocol was fully activated. So picture this, it's 2004 Chicago Auto Show. Toyota pulls the cover off the second-gen Tacoma. And let me tell you, this was not an update. This was an invasion. It was bigger, it was stronger, it was just meaner. The new 4-liter V6, pumping out 236 horsepower, towing capacity, jacked up to 6,500 pounds. And get this, with 18 different configurations, Toyota didn't just show up with a new truck. They showed up with an entire army. And you know, they weren't just thinking about the dirt either. They built street fighters. The X-Runner, that thing was a tactical weapon. It came lowered from the factory, had an X-brace frame for insane rigidity, and a 6-speed manual. This machine, it wasn't designed to crawl over rocks. It was built to hunt down Mustangs on the asphalt.
So the stage was set for a massive showdown. See, for years, the Ford Ranger was the undisputed king of the small truck hill. Even in 2004, it was still holding on to the sales crown, but just barely. When Toyota dropped the second-gen Tacoma, they weren't just challenging for the top spot. Nah, they went straight for the throat.
And here it is, the kill shot. In 2005, the Tacoma didn't just win, it absolutely annihilated the competition. We're talking outselling the Ford Ranger by 48,000 units. This wasn't a competition anymore. This was a hostile takeover, period.
But look, true strength, it isn't measured when things are going easy. It's measured when your very foundation starts to crack. In this next part, this is about the Tacoma's greatest trial, a real test of integrity under immense pressure.
Think about it. Any machine can have a flaw. That's not the point. The real question, the one that truly defines the character of a brand, is what do you do when the very steel that's supposed to make you strong fails? So, between 2005 and 2010, the Tacoma had a skeleton problem. Frame rust. And I'm not talking about some surface-level cosmetic issue. This was the kind of rust that compromises the core integrity of the entire machine. A fundamental weakness that could literally break the truck from the inside out. And the price tag for that weakness? A $3.4 billion class action settlement. You gotta understand, lesser brands would have hidden. They would have made excuses, or they just would have folded completely. But Toyota? They didn't run. They stood there and they faced it. They agreed to inspect frames for 12 full years from the date of sale. And if the steel had failed, they replaced it on their dime. They even went back and reimbursed owners who'd already paid out of pocket for the fix. Now listen, that isn't marketing. That is how you forge unbreakable loyalty when everything else around you is turning to rust. And what came out of that fire? The third generation, forged stronger. Toyota didn't just fix the problem, they overcorrected. They reinforced the frame with high-strength steel. They added a noise-dampening windshield, insulated the doors, and don't get it twisted. That wasn't for comfort, that was for control. A Tacoma isn't a party bus, it's a command center.
So all this brings us to the final assessment. Who is this machine actually for? Let's just cut through all the noise right now and get straight to the verdict. Right at the top of the food chain, you've got the apex predator, the TRD Pro. And let's be clear, this is not a trim package. This is a weapons system. You're talking Fox internal bypass shocks for absolute control, a thick TRD skid plate to protect its vital organs, and a catback exhaust that announces its arrival long before you see it.
And then you have something like crawl control. Do not make the mistake of thinking this is some kind of luxury feature. It's not. This is combat tech. The truck manages the battlefield. It handles the throttle and the brakes through the absolute worst terrain. Your job is to focus on one single thing, steering through hell and win.
So here's the final simple truth. This thing started as a nameless workhorse, and it became the undisputed king of the trail, a machine that earned every ounce of its reputation with pure grit and unshakable reliability. Look, you can go buy whatever you want, but if you want a truck that had to fight for its own name and won, there's really only one choice. Get a Tacoma. Or get used to the view from the dust cloud behind one.